Hello everyone. Nice, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. So I'm going to talk to you today about my journey and some of the themes that I think recur that make us a sustainable business and give you a bit of context. So every minute around the world, over 1 million disposable cups are used and discarded. So that's over 500 billion cups every year. And disposable cups are actually really thin plastic cups that are given a paper coating in order to make them easy to brand and, I guess, more appealing to customers. But this means because they're made of a composite material, they can't be recycled. So in 2007, when we set out to solve this problem, a world that no longer needs, wants or uses single-use cups, I thought we'd be done by now because, you know, what I realised was you don't really need a KeepCup, much less a disposable cup, because you can just drink your sit down for 10 minutes and drink your coffee in-house. So shows you that you can start out with some pretty naive ideas that take you a long way. So whilst in some ways disposable cups are pretty trivial in terms of the global waste crisis we face because they're unnecessary and because they're so visible and relatable to people, like we see them all the time, we use them. It's a really interesting lens through which to view the kinds of systems and cultural changes that are needed across entire industries and the sort of opportunities that are out there to solve environmental problems and the challenges we face. So, for example, whilst I knew that disposable cups weren't recyclable, I didn't really realise that the whole recycling system was in crisis when we started. So 9% of all plastic ever made has been recycled, only 9%. So for the last 50 years we've been making stuff out of plastic, only 9% of that's ever been recycled. And there's a growing awareness of that. And with that growing awareness, then we have the big players step in and they've got recycling programs and pledges for recycled content. But bear in mind, BP has just declared their strategy for 2030, and one of the pillars of their strategy is convenience, which equals single-use plastic. So oil industry groups have lobbied pretty hard to equate hygiene with single use in the wake of the pandemic, but even if plastic is fully recycled, it can only be recycled 4 or 5 times before it's degraded beyond the ability to be recycled. I live in the city of Yarra and we've just got glass curbside recycling, which is awesome. And I went down to the supermarket a couple of days ago, and of the 10 honey brands that were on shelf, 9 of them were in plastic jars. So there's been this rapid shift to move from glass packaging to plastic packaging. So it's just, being mindful of how, and this idea that we can recycle our way out of it. This is an article that was in the Financial Times a couple of days ago. It surveyed over 20,000 people from 30 countries, and most people in the world believe that recycling is the best solution to reduce carbon footprint against things like buying renewable energy, swapping to an electric car, flying less. So we think that's the most effective when in fact it's the least effective thing we can do, and that's a lot to do with the way we're communicated to by big business. So these are the themes that I'm going to talk to you about today: challenging cultural norms, selling the vision, sustainability versus sexy, one of our favourites, and who gives permission. And I'll talk to you about how I learnt these things and then how we're thinking about them today. So this is me and my brother Jamie back in 1999. And I was a lawyer and my brother was working in the UK, and every week he would call me up with a new business idea. And he'd say, what about veterinary supermarkets? What about this? And finally he said, I've seen these stores Pret a Manger, and they make sandwiches and coffee that's ready to go and you just take it away. It's convenient. And I thought, well, I like people and I'm a good cook. How hard can it be? This sounds like fun. And so off I went on this journey to make Blue Bag, and that was the name of the business. And over time, we saw that people were using more. It was when disposable cups first came onto the scene, and I remember we was in the legal district of Melbourne, and a lawyer came in and he said to me, I feel like a baby drinking out of this disposable cup with a sipper lid. But then by and by, people kept using them, and now we drink out of them and we don't even think twice. But I sort of became increasingly concerned about the amount of rubbish we were going through, and so I looked around for an alternative with no intention whatsoever of starting a business. And I went down to Myer, and this is what was on the shelf. So these big clunky mugs, they were really utilitarian. They didn't fit under the group heads of the machine, and I thought, gee, there's an opportunity here to make something that we could sell in a store. But of course, that's not what I did, manufacture things. So, and then we also thought, well, if this is such an obvious solution, why hasn't someone done this? Like, there must be some reason that we're missing, that people haven't solved this problem already. Like, will people return and reuse the cup? So in the winter of 2007, we got in this Decor soup mug, and we gave people 50 cents off if they refilled with their mug. And at the time, the disposable packaging we were using actually cost us 70 cents. So we were saving 20 cents every time we refilled one of these. And 15% of the customers returned and reused. So we were like, far out, like there's a market here if we get this right. And my pa always said, lots of people have good ideas, but very few people act on them. And I guess he's right. So we did act on it, and we went and engaged industrial designers to help us with the design, and we got other designers to come up with a name. And we're really fortunate that we had sort of the cash flow of the cafe business, which was, as anyone who's watching knows, cafe, it's tough work and the margins are pretty tight. But anyway, we went along, and we ended up, but I was still like, is this going to work? Like, why hasn't someone done this before? It was always in the back of our minds, and are we missing some piece? And at the time, I read this book by Jared Diamond called Collapse, and it was why societies fail, like why civilizations have collapsed. And one that really struck me was Easter Island, Rarotonga, and it's covered in these giant stone statues, which you will have seen around the traps. And but what we probably don't realise is that the island used to be covered in about 16 million trees. And those trees were felled in order to drag these heavy sculptures, to quarry the stone, to carve the stone, to drag these sculptures around the island and put them up. And he said, Jared Diamond said that one of his students put their hand up and said, well, who cut down the last tree? And he thought about it for a while, and he was like, well, it actually wouldn't have been a tree that the person cut down. So incrementally over a few generations, they would have cut and cut and cut. And so trees that were probably metres wide in girth would have given way to saplings. And so finally, when the person cut down the last tree, it wasn't a tree at all, it was a shrub. And so it made me really think about the incremental effects of change, and also how we cling to these, if the islanders had to choose between, do you want your island to be habitable or do you want these giant stone sculptures, they would have picked habitable, I presume. And it's the same as us. Like, do you want convenience, and do you want single-use items, or do you want a habitable planet? That's the sort of discussion we're faced with. But we cling to these ideas of what's normal, and that the status quo changes. It sort of changes slowly, and then it changes really fast. So there was that, and then there was also my daughter. So at the time, my daughter, who's now 16, was like 2 or 3, and I would give her hot milk in a sippy cup in the morning before work, and then I'd go into work and I'd have a coffee in a disposable cup. And I thought, would I give her coffee, if I wasn't, would I give her milk in a disposable cup? And that just seemed really wrong. Like, it seemed like such a dispiriting thing to do, to give a child a disposable cup to drink from, when you could just, give her a nice, cup that could be washed. And it was that sort of idea of what sort of world are we creating that made me think that this isn't just about selling a product. This is about behavioural change. This is about shifting cultural norms. And I found that idea super exciting and engaging, to be able to start telling that story through the product. So we ended up with a prototype which was hand painted and you couldn't take the lid off. And we went around to find some manufacturers and local manufacturers, and I took it into one guy. He said, "Are you crazy?" He goes, "This is a plastic cup. Like, what are you thinking? I've got $1 million worth of tools sitting over there that are heaps better than what you've come up with for business ideas. If you can't sell this off the prototype, forget about it. Don't even bother." And at the time, I was really cross because I thought, why can't he see the genius of this? But I took his advice, and through our business blue bag, we did some corporate catering as well. So I called up all the caterers and got onto the sustainability. Well, the catering people said, "Oh, it's not us." And then I got to the sustainability person, and they usually didn't have any budget. So then I got onto the marketing person and really started to, so there was a story I was telling, the problem that I wanted to solve, and then it was a real fast education in, well, how can you solve the customer's problems? What are the things they're concerned about? How are they having trouble communicating their message? So it was a great honing of the message. And finally, I got a meeting down at with National Australia Bank down at the Docklands, and they were doing a new 6-star green building. And I pitched to their sustainability team and said, if you've got solar power on the roof and you're using grey water and you're doing all these amazing things, but you're still handing out disposable cups, there's a real disconnect in your message. And they said, "Okay, great, we're going to buy 5,500. And I nearly fell off my chair. I couldn't believe it. And I went downstairs. I presented the thing out of a shoebox, for goodness sake. And I went downstairs. I said to Dad, they're going to buy 5,500. And he was like, "Just wait till you get the purchase order." He couldn't believe that, this was happening. And I guess looking back on that moment, I thought that they saw the product, and of course they did. But I think the other thing to remember is that they also were buying me. They were buying my belief in my solution. They were buying my commitment to get the job done. They were buying my vision of the change that I saw was necessary. And there's a wonderful quote from a philosopher called Thomas Carlyle, who said that the merit of originality is not novelty, it's sincerity. So it's not the newness of what you do, because yes, this is just a cup. It's the way you do it and the intent with which you do it that is, we all know when we connect with someone who's genuine, and you get that really nice feeling, and there's something in that that's just so important to communicate your vision and to have people believe in what you're trying to achieve. So that was the second big lesson. And then the third one was sustainability versus sexy. So as we're starting up, my brother Jamie and I would argue all the time, is this going to be about sustainability, like local manufacture, thinking about materials? Could it stack? Was it component-based, so you could use minimum components to make the maximum number of products? Yeah, it was going to be all those things. But Jamie's like, but it's got to be sexy. It's got to look beautiful. It's got to have colour. It's got to have all these things. And this is the first market we did. The first time we sold the product in Federation Square in Melbourne in June 2009. And it was an amazing day. We sold 1,000 of these cups in 6 hours. Like, I didn't take my head off that bench. We were making them as fast as we could sell them. And people were like, "I don't even know what this is, but I want one," or, this is my idea. I've been thinking about this. And my favourite was one guy stood over there in the corner and took 40 minutes to decide between the soft charcoal and the warm grey. And it was a real lesson that, you can have all the you can be on that sustainability journey, and that can be absolutely core to your mission. But if you can't draw people in and you don't engage them in a way that excites their creativity and their passion, then you're not going to get an opportunity to do all these other wonderful things that underpin the business. I always say we're like Superman, like we're sort of, we're Superman of sexy, and then you just rip our thing down, it's all green underneath. Like we are what we say we are. So that was lesson number 3, sustainability and sexy. And then number 4 is around who gives permission. Who are the gatekeepers, and who are the people who are either going to enable or block what you want to do? And again, we got a really big clue about this very early on. So we did that first market in Federation Square, and then we went to Sydney with my husband, and we did the Powerhouse Design Market in Sydney. And a girl came up to me and she said, "Look, I'd really like to drink one of these cups because I think it's the right thing to do to get a KeepCup, but I drink Campos coffee and they're way too cool for this kind of thing." And I was like, "What? I'll tell you what's cool. Sustainability is cool, blah, blah, blah." And she walked away, and the next week, Will Young from Campos Coffee in Sydney called up and he said, "Look, I've been looking for a product like this for years. Is it made in Australia?" And we said, "Yes, it's made in Australia." And he said, "Okay, I'd like to buy 10,000 of them." So not only was that I didn't realise the potential of that, but overnight he changed what was cool in coffee in Sydney and really attached we attached our brand to great coffee. We attached our brand to the aspirational behaviour around coffee and knowing a good coffee, and made it easy that when you walked in and the feeling if you walk in, you hand over your KeepCup and someone says, "Hey, nice KeepCup." It's a really nice feeling as opposed to, "Oh, what's that? How do I fill it? What do I do?" So that, making that really easy for our customers has been a really important part of our business growth and our success. So, on the back of that, we, I guess from there on, it was solving problems one by one. We followed interest where it took us. We opened offices in the UK and the USA, and we honed our craft. We continue to back up our statements. We continue to improve on performance. We develop new products. We refine what we do. This is life cycle analysis we had done a couple of years ago that looks at the manufacturing. That's the 60 uses is the minimum amount of time you need to break even with manufacturing of our product. We're looking at carbon footprinting, and we partner with like-minded organisations. And then 2020 happened, and our customers, the cafes, as well as ourselves, are totally in crisis. It's been, as mentioned, it's been really, really tough, particularly for the hospitality industry. And we've had to, really pivot and look at what changes we can make. And I think not only that, on the back of a global pandemic, we've got the climate crisis. And whilst globally we reached 7% emissions reduction this year as a consequence of basically shutting down the whole world, we have to do that every year for the next decade to limit 1.5 degree warming. So, we've seen that the solutions we make have to be global, but we've had to return to these first principles with which we built the business to survive. And I guess the thing that's really different between 2009 and 2021 is that there's a whole movement of people that now stand with us and behind us to push this movement forward. And we did a survey mid last year just to check on the reuse rates and what was happening, and we found that 40% of our customers now will refuse to get anything that is in single-use packaging. So that's amazing. I think another thing is that when we first started in 2010, we were calling cups single-use cups, and our customers said to us, you have to stop saying that. No one knows what you're talking about. You have to say disposable cups. And yet by 2018, single-use was Guardian's word of the year. So things, they take ages and ages to change, and then boom, suddenly, the world's changed, and things are different. So in terms of cultural norms, I think the thing that was a big surprise to us is when we did this survey last year, we said, what are the problems? And one of the things was that people hand over a dirty cup for the cafes to wash and refill. So, I think that's a really interesting. I know that Wangham is solving that, and you've got some solutions for that with the council, which are terrific, but those things are who's responsible, and again it's talking about how the disposable cup's such a unique way to think about the waste crisis, in that who will wash it. And when we think about people often ask us, recycling is preserving the status quo, and it maintains the cycle of consumption by using, trickle-down economics. So the people who make the stuff, they make all the money and control the production, and then we as consumers just consume it and throw it in the bin or dispose of it thoughtfully to recycle, but it preserves that status quo. And people always ask us, like every time I do a talk, someone always says to me, is KeepCup made of recycled materials? And if we just unpack this a bit, when you and I think of recycled materials, we think about stuff being removed from a bin or taken out of landfill to make something else. But what, in actual fact, when a lot of the big players are talking about recycled material, particularly in relation to food, so for example, Coca-Cola, they're doing virgin plastic, recycled plastic, virgin plastic, but they're often taking it off the factory floor. So misshapen bottles come off the factory line and then they just pelletize them and put them back through, and that's considered recycled content. So there's a lot of misinformation around what recycled plastic is. And when you consider with KeepCup, in the last 12 years, we would have produced the same number of cups that the likes of Starbucks or Coca-Cola would probably produce in half a day. You realise that, the problem isn't, plastic is a really useful shortcut to understand the problem, because half of the plastic produced is for single-use items. But the problem's really about volume, not material. And so whilst we've come a long way, and KeepCup's now the name of a category of products as well as our brand, it feels like it's come full circle, but it hasn't. We've made some progress in challenging those norms, and we'll continue to do so. And whilst KeepCup's been started because we believe in the power of individual behaviour change, that individuals are the people who can make a difference, do not underestimate the power of legislation and the power of political action. So this is our sales in the UK. And in 2018, a parliamentary review suggested that because disposable cups weren't recyclable, if they couldn't be fully recycled, and not just recyclable, but actually in a recycling stream in 4 years, that they should be banned. And that announcement, which wasn't even legislation, just that the threat of legislation or the idea that there might be a policy change, look what happened to our sales. So you can see that was a real eye-opener for us, that the directional changes set by government and policy and legislation can have a huge impact on the way we think and do business. So back to those values. The cultural norms, selling the vision, selling the idea, and who gives permission. When I just want you to think back to those 16 million trees on Easter Island on Rarotonga. So that would take the population of Australia just 1 year to remove every single tree on that island, just to account for our disposable cup consumption. This is a picture of some women in Africa, in Kenya, in the Greenbelt movement, which was started by a woman called Wangari Maathai in the 1970s. And she and the women who worked alongside her planted 50 million trees in Africa, which is just an astounding achievement. But she always said that her real work and her real purpose was empowering the women that she worked alongside. And the tree planting was a method of delivery of something richer. And I love this. This is a statement by Marshall McLuhan, a communication theorist. He said, "The medium is the message." So I urge you to think about the method of delivery. The disposable cup is shaping our behaviour. What the medium and the message means is that disposable cup is shaping our behaviour more than the coffee inside it. It's the cup that's shaping our culture. So I challenge you to think, what's your medium? What is it you're actually creating when you're doing whatever it is you do, and how can we continue to drive and harness that change? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abigail. It really is an amazing story. And I know, you haven't had time today to touch on many of the things that you have been doing, not only as your business solution with KeepCup, but within your business itself to make it more sustainable. I'm just going to encourage people, if you go to the Q&A tool, you can put your questions in there to Abigail. I see there's one question in there. Use the thumbs up to upvote those questions you most want answered. And as you put your questions in, I'll put a few in to Abigail. So this is a little bit related, Abigail, to Moondog's question. I know that KeepCup is aiming to go carbon neutral by 2025. Can you tell us a bit about what that journey has entailed? What have you had to do to get to where you are, and what still do you have to do to get to where you want to go?
Yeah, I guess that like the journey to I think we'll be probably carbon neutral by the end of this year. So for us, it's getting that assessment done and understanding where the hotspots are in your business. This is a bit of a diversion, but we've got solar on the roof of our premises and we push power back into the grid with the solar power. And when we had our carbon assessment done, the biggest impact we have is with our customers washing their cup. So every time they wash the cup, it's 7 grams of carbon because, and you're thinking that's the water. It's not the water. It's the fossil fuels in the power used to heat the water. So, our solar power, we push 7,000 washers back into the grid every day with through our renewable energy. So I haven't really answered your question, but the journey doesn't stop. Like the journey is like 90% of the impact we have as a business is locked in when we make the product. Like the product design, the way it stacks, the way it ships, the materials we use. And then it's about, well, when we sell it, how often do people use it? So we always say the best reusable is the one you use. It's about choosing things well and using them all the time rather than and then there's incremental things we can do that keep improving. So we recently just on pallets, I don't know, you have plastic wrap. So we've just put pallet strapping on the products, which is going to save us a lot in plastic. Or it's when we got our stainless steel cups, the factory in China, which probably makes, 80% of all steel cups in the world, when they delivered the cups to us, they were all in an individual plastic bag. And we had to work for months and months and months to negotiate with them to put them in cardboard stripping and not put them in the plastic bags. And that didn't do anything for us other than reduce our footprint, but hopefully it paved a way for them to rethink about how they were delivering their product to all their other customers and save on that plastic bag. So it's about just identifying small things you can do and chipping them off to make change.
And I think that raises a really significant point. All businesses have a lot of impact on their customers and the products they make, but they have a lot of impact on their supply chain too. Mm-hmm. And when you push back to your supply chain, and we've heard this, and I've seen this, other businesses like Elk have worked with Australia Post to have packaging that's fully recyclable and change the way that postage is done. And you've got this great opportunity not just to be influencing out to customers, but influencing up as well, and really changing the way that their products and their services are delivered, which reaches so many more businesses. And it's definitely the power for that is in your hands, I guess, is the way to say that. Moondog's question also was asking where you can find out about other businesses that are trying to go carbon neutral or that have committed to it. So Climate Positive is, or Climate Active, I think, is a website you can go to and you can register there, and they do an accredited approval system. So I definitely check that out. We've got a question here, Abigail, from a barista that's saying they notice that, Justin notices a lot more of his customers are accumulating a collection of Keep Cups. And are there any redistribution options available for these Keep Cups? And I agree. I don't think one human does actually require 13 cups, unless it becomes like our outfits that, we're colour-coded and matched to whatever we're wearing.
Look, people who are committed probably often need a couple. You need one in the car and one at your desk and, one for the kids to get a hot chocolate. But, yes, I don't know. I guess that's a conversation you can have with those customers to say, maybe they could gift it to someone or.
Yeah, Justin, I have had more than one KeepCup and I have taken some to the op shop. But yeah, definitely you don't want to be caught in the consumptive pattern of I just buy more KeepCups. You know, if it takes 60 coffees to break even, then you don't want to have 20 KeepCups at home. As much as that would be good for your business, Abigail.
Yeah, but it's like everything is that equation, really, isn't it? Like it's the cost per wear of the outfit you buy, the car you drive. Like it's about how many times are you going to use it to break even or to be effective in that use.
Yeah. Laura, I'm pretty sure the name of the website is Climate Active. So if you Google Climate Active, you'll find that. And this, another question for you while others are coming up. So you said 40% of your customers, when you surveyed them, are now refusing single cups. And I thought that was a fantastic figure.
Yeah.
And really interesting how your product, which was a sustainable solution to a problem you saw, is going on to really change people's thinking and the way that they engage with the world. Can you shed any more light on those results, and how long did it take, do you think, for that change to start happening with those customers?
I think the lovely thing about KeepCup is it's such a visible act. Like you know, it's not like a lunchbox tucked in your bag. You see people using it, so it has that. It's like a reusable bag. It makes people, I guess, copy that behaviour. But we survey customers. We started that. We do it every couple of years. We survey them, and I'm not sure we'd even asked that question before. Do you refuse? But yeah, I think that's amazing. So we surveyed. There were 3,000 customers in that survey. So that's a good polling sample. I hear. Here you need 1,000 to get a good sample.
Yeah, great. And I think we've got time for one question here. What kind of initiatives is KeepCup working on to encourage more cafes and restaurant proprietors to reward customers for using reusable cups? So I know you said when you started off you had your 50-cent.
Yeah, I think that's outrageous. I don't think they should be. You shouldn't be rewarded for using a reusable cup. Why should the cafe reward you? The poor old cafe is struggling to make ends meet and make it, and they've got to wash your cup and reward you. The reward is your own pleasure. It's so much nicer. Your coffee tastes better in a reusable cup.
So we need to sell the cultural messaging that it's cool and it's better, and in every way you just want to only be seen with a reusable cup.
Yeah, I mean, we would encourage cafes to do the opposite, to charge people the cost of the packaging.
Yes. Yeah, I like it. And I had a solution possibly for your carbon footprint from washing. You just need to work with those customers that are now refusing single-use cups to get them buying renewable energy at home and having solar on their rooftop, using heat pumps, and then they're carbon neutral too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just that's the big game changer, isn't it? It's all renewable energy is the big ticket item that we've all got to.
Yeah, and I think we've probably got time for Marcus's one. Do you do a lot of sales as corporate branded gifts?
Oh, look, when we first started, yes, we did a lot, but less so as the products become more less novel. Yeah. There's a while there in the early days where it was, I think, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I heard someone wrote in and said that she and her girlfriends do like a Kris Kringle every year where they give each other a gift, and everyone had given this one woman a KeepCup, so she got 7. So, yeah. She's going
to Justice Cafe. Okay, thank you so much, Abigail. It's been great to hear your story, and I'm sure everyone else along with me has been inspired. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emma.